Hey, it's my friends. Good morning, Bellevue, and anyone else that may be watching today. We have a special interview for you today. As I had mentioned when I did Leah Wetzel last week, trying to look outside of Bellevue for maybe some experience and expertise. And today we have an expert that is of national and even international significance, Dr. Ruby Payne. Now, Dr. Ruby Payne has been a mentor to me, a teacher. She is the author of books that have influenced my life and the way that I view schools and the kids at school, A Framework for Understanding Poverty, Bridges Out of Poverty, and her recent book, Emotional Poverty, which looks at the neurological and emotional development of children and how we can best assist those kids who are having trouble with their emotional and behavioral regulation. And I've had the privilege, beyond just being influenced by her work, to work under her as a consultant for her company, of which she is the owner and CEO, ahaprocess. And so she's become more than just a mentor. She's also my friend. And I am really delighted that she had the time and the willingness to sit down with me and talk in this interview about her experience through the COVID crisis as a business leader, what it's like to be in charge of employees right now, and the challenges that she faces with that. What she thinks about schools and what's happening with schools and what could happen with schools is fascinating stuff. And then, just like everybody on the interview, we went through the INSPIRE model and we asked Ruby to talk about what she's doing personally, spiritually, physically, intellectually, relationally, and emotionally. I know you're going to enjoy this. Ruby is just a fount of information, and she has so much to offer in this far-ranging interview. So without any further ado, please enjoy my interview with Dr. Ruby Payne. All right. Wow. Look, we have Dr. Ruby Payne, one of my favorite people. She's been a mentor and a teacher and someone who has truly changed the way that I think about the world, and I just appreciate her so much. But she's not doing anything because she's locked in her house like the rest of us. And so she graciously agreed to take a few minutes to talk to us today about what's going on in her life during the COVID quarantine. So Ruby, how are you today?
I'm good. It's been almost a month.
Yeah.
We started March 14th.
Maybe tell people where you are, and so they have a geographical picture of you.
Okay, I am in Corpus Christi, Texas, and if you don't know Texas very well, Corpus Christi is halfway between Houston and the Mexican border, and it's on the water, okay? So it's about 3.5 hours from Houston, about 3.5 hours from Brownsville, which would be on the Mexican border, and it's a wonderful place to live.
That's really
great. The company is in Houston, but I live in Corpus Christi.
So your weather's probably similar to ours. We're supposed to get 2 inches of snow tomorrow for Easter. You as well? Or Sunday, I mean. 2 inches of snow. Will you be getting snow?
I'm not thinking that.
Not snow.
It's supposed to be 83 degrees today. Yeah. No.
It'll take us 2 days added up to get to 83, but that's Iowa weather, I guess. Well, Ruby, I just appreciate you taking some time, and I've been doing some interviews with people in Bellevue and thought it would be fun to interview people out of Bellevue to kind of tap into their expertise about what's going on and give people a broader view. And I'm kind of interested in two things in your position. And the first is you're the CEO of a company. So you are really confronting this business stress and the stress on caring about your employees, the welfare of your employees. How do you keep your business afloat? I'm just curious how you as a business leader are facing these challenges right now.
Well, you're right. In 2021 will be 25 years of owning the business, and I have learned that you are going to have down times. The 2008 recession was brutal for us, and now again. So one of the things that happens when you have a downturn is, of course, as an employer, I am most worried about my employees. And how do you keep enough cash to make sure you can pay your bills and pay your employees? Because in a downturn, cash is king. It all boils down to cash, okay, in the final analysis. And so what happens, as I think about it, we've been very blessed. Okay. One of the things that happened is that we had a very good year last year, and I run a fairly conservative business. Okay. I think that we have no debt. I've never had debt. We've had a line of credit that we've drawn on a couple times, but very rarely. And the second thing is that I think that I'm very, as we'll get to, I'm very spiritual. I believe very much in tithing. And so I think that we have been very blessed. So we are good right now. And especially with that small business loan, we're good. I'm worried about my consultants because my consultants are contract, and there's going to be work. We've been very fortunate. Everything, only 3 days of consulting have been canceled, but it's all been moved back to after June the 1st. So one of the things is I worry for some of my consultants, although most of them are okay, I think.
That's really good. It's really interesting because a lot of people are experiencing this from the other side of, will they have a job? But to be in that position of having to oversee people is a whole different kind of a worry, I think.
It is. And it builds, because I don't care. There's a picture out there that employers don't care about their employees. Mm-hmm. But people I know that are good employers, they worry. It wakes them up at night. What about my employees? What am I going to do to make sure they're okay? Because if you run a business, you know your employees, you work with them, they become very special to you and close to your heart, and it's painful when you have to tell them, I don't have money for you. I mean, that's painful, okay? And so I think that I was interested in the newscast with employers. So many employers, small business employers, talk about their relationship with their employees and how devastated they are for their employees.
Yeah, that's really good. And I think a good word, and to remind people that are in a difficult situation, that at least most employers really do care about what's going on. All right, let's move to your... Oh, go ahead, sorry.
No, I'm just going to say, if you run an ethical business, you are. You're going to be very concerned.
So good. So let's move to your area of expertise. The thing that you're known most for is really impacting the way that schools work with under-resourced kids. That's been the thing that you've really contributed really nationally to our culture, internationally for that matter. And I know you've had a direct impact on my school through the work that I have brought in. What are you hearing from around the country, indeed around the world, about how schools are facing these challenges right now, especially as it relates to under-resourced kids?
Well, one of the most interesting things about how we do school in America and Western countries, we assume that number one, the child will have a level of stability outside of school. And number two, that a lot of the resources the child needs to be successful in school will actually be provided outside of school. And one of the things that's happened now is that people are beginning to get the picture that no, that's not the reality. The way we run the institution doesn't work anymore, because you have too many kids who don't have stability outside of it, and you have too many kids who don't have the resources outside of it. So one of the things that's happening now is that I just read yesterday that the IMF, the International Monetary Fund, predicts that by the time this is over, 2021, the poverty rate in the world will have climbed to be 50%.
Oh my goodness.
One of the things is that I think that the other thing that we've done in the research is that we've done research on systems, okay? The thinking right now is that everything that happens is related to a system, and I don't disagree with that. But systems are basically amoral, and they're only as moral as the people in them and the knowledge base that the people in them have, okay? And so one of the key issues is you can't just intervene at the systems level. You also have to intervene at the individual level, because you're changing understandings in order to change the system, okay? They two go together. It's not one or the other. So one of the things I'm thinking that's going to happen out of this is that, we're going to rethink our healthcare system. I'm hoping that we'll come up with basic healthcare for everybody, okay? Because it's such a game changer, okay? And educators assume that all children have access to healthcare, and they don't, okay? The second thing I'm hoping that will happen is we will back off the institutional rigidity. And
That's brilliant.
We are killing kids with our rigidity.
Wow.
I have to say, I read this article in New York Times and I almost cried. It was about what you should do with your young children when they're home with you. You should play with them. You should sing with them. You should let them explore things. You should let them have physical activity. I thought, yes, and that's the very thing you've legislated out of schools. You know? I was like, why are we doing this? Let me give you a high school example of rigidity. Most states, you have to have 24 credits to graduate from high school. In many states, 18 of those 24 are designated what you will take, okay? So the bottom line is, let's suppose you have a talent in music, or you have a talent in cooking, or you have a talent in whatever, okay? Well, too bad for you. You know, you are going to develop against what we have decided is the ultimate model for talent. And so it's been what we've gotten, particularly for males out of poverty or minority males, we've just got this huge level of they vote with their feet, they just leave.
Yeah.
And then, if I might just say one more thing about this, one thing I'm hoping, we're identifying a lot of gifted males as ODD.
Wow.
Oppositional defiant disorder.
Right.
And if you start looking at the research, their characteristics are exactly the same. And so it's like, really? We're destroying all this talent because it doesn't fit a narrow model of what we think ought to happen. So I'm hoping that goes away.
Yeah, I think that a lot of people are seeing this as an opportunity to really step back and assess what we've taken for granted. And I think that's what I'm hearing from you, is that there's a lot of things that we just sort of assume as normal that actually are interfering with the real education that we would want for the kids that need it the most.
Exactly. And the very fact that in 50 years, there's been no change in the gap, very little change. I mean, isolated places have done it. But as national data, there's been virtually no change between how poor children, that gap between poor and affluent children, achievement gap. So you got to say, hey, can we rethink our model just a little bit? So I'm hoping that happens, yeah.
That is some amazing stuff. And obviously, we could go on all day because you are so full of just insight and brilliance. And again, you've changed the way I look at schools and the way I've looked at kids. And I know you've impacted so many people. And like I said, we go on all day. But let's just move on and let's do the personal stuff, because you are a business leader and you are a thought leader and you're also a wife and a mother. And you're living as an individual like all of us under these situations. So in Bellevue, we've been using the Bellevue Inspire model, which we just sort of came up with, using the SPIRE part of Inspire to look at 5 different areas that families can focus on during this time to make sure that we're not drifting and losing ground, but try to go stronger in each of these areas. So I'll just name each one of them. If you just want to talk about what you're doing individually, the spiritual one is about faith. It's about how you make sense out of all of this. And so what are you doing with spiritual?
Well, every morning I get up about 5:30, and for an hour and a half, I read and meditate and journal. I have done that for 30 years, okay? And it centers me for the day. And I have a very deep faith. And for those of your listeners or people, one of the books I would recommend people read right now, there's a wonderful, wonderful writer named Eugene Peterson.
Mm-hmm.
And he is the one who actually did the translation from Greek and Hebrew to English on the Message Bible.
Absolutely, yeah.
But he wrote a book called, if you can't run a foot race, how are you going to run with the horses? And basically, he takes the book of Jeremiah, and he has some of the most insightful, brilliant writing I've ever read. I mean, he references literature. His turn of phrase is just unbelievable. I envy his writing. And but basically, Jeremiah fits now. If you want to look at an analogy between that and the COVID, it would be a good book to read, and he's brilliant. So I constantly, I like another guy I like a lot is Richard Rohr. I also like individuals who are on the very much the Bruce Lipton on the energy side of the thing. He's a scientist. So I like to read a lot. So I do that every morning. I have a very deep faith. A couple things for your listener. I believe that when one thing leaves, something better comes. But you don't see it at the time.
Oh, it's so good.
And let me give you one example. My son and his husband live in London. They're gay, okay? And they're doing the child via surrogacy. Well, the baby was implanted late October, November of last year. And must have been October, because January the 3rd of this year, it miscarried and died. I was devastated. But the baby would have been born in Seattle in July. And you look at all the issues around COVID and travel, they would never have been able to come to pick up the baby from London.
Wow.
They would never have been able. I would have been terrified for the child's well-being. Okay. They can't travel. No one can travel.
Right.
So what would have happened to the baby? So sometimes in the face of just deep sadness, there is this understanding, not at the time, but later on down the road.
Wow.
That actually God was looking out for you.
Yeah. That's really good. And there've been a number of people who've said, look, we have to look at these not as curses or like something's wrong, but as opportunities to see something better in the future and to move through it and to recognize that. So that's really affirming. That's awesome stuff. How about physical? That's the P in there. What are you doing to stay physically healthy and physically active in a time where you could just sit on a couch all day?
Well, we are walking a lot. I'm trying to get in 10,000 steps a day. The other thing is, T and I are practicing our country western dancing on our back driveway. I don't know if you saw the video of us doing that. Okay?
I haven't seen it. No, I haven't seen it. I will, but
I'll email you the video, okay?
Do.
But we are, if you don't know, country western dancing is a very simple, quick, slow, okay? And you just dance it in a line kind of, or a circle, you know? So we're working on getting that better. And so you'll see that you did not win any prizes, but that's we're doing that. And T was calling this time, my husband, a fat farm. He's always wanting to go to a fat farm, right? And what he's doing right now is he's losing weight. So what we're doing is we have cut our meals down to 2 a day. One about 10-ish and one about 4:35, 4:35 in there. And so he feels like he's at the fat farm and he can do it because he always wanted to do it and never could, you know? So now we're doing the fat farm. So yeah, that's what we're doing.
That's great stuff. Yeah, I had to cut down my meals down from 2 an hour. Like it was just that I had to realize, wow, I can go to the cupboard anytime I want right now. This is not good. Yeah. All right. The I in Inspire is for intellectual. You've already talked about some of the reading you're doing. What else are you doing, or what would you recommend for people intellectually? Just to keep their brains stimulated, not to drift into numbness.
I read a lot. I mean, I read a lot. Okay. I like to read 3 or 4 books a week. Okay. I'm a fast reader. I watched a documentary on Teddy Roosevelt last week. He read a book a day. Okay. I mean, I'm not that good, you know, but the bottom line is I like to read. And so I read a piece of fiction yesterday, a book. It's a fascinating book. It's kind of a romantic suspense, but it was actually very instructive because it's this whole concept of COVID, except that what knocked the system out this time was solar rays. Intense solar rays from the sun knocked out the whole system and knocked out all the internet, all the satellites, all the electricity. It knocked out the whole electrical grid, okay? And what happens to people when they go back to very basics of living, how they organize themselves, how they educate, how they deal with the bad guys. Because any great disruption has the opportunity for great good and great evil. I mean, that's just the bottom line. So it was a fascinating book. I'm reading a book on hypnosis, reading a book on working on my PowerPoints for the new book, Emotional Poverty 2, that's going to be out, and looking at that. And so, yeah, keep
that brain engaged.
Now we're trying to watch more videos. I mean, more movies, documentaries, etc. But yeah.
Good stuff. All right, the R is for relational, and of course you've got T there, and that's helpful. How are you keeping in touch with other people? How are you making sure that you don't feel too isolated in these times?
A lot more phone calls, a lot more Zoom, like you and I, a lot more. It's an opportunity for me to keep in touch better with consultants. I've never had that opportunity before because I've been traveling so much. That's wonderful. And I've been doing this kind of stuff. Made a face mask.
There we go. That's a beautiful.
I had these tea towels. Okay, I spent on. This is going to be my activity today. I had these tea towels that had embroidery on them, and they were the only thing in the house I had that was 100% cotton. And we need face masks desperately. And if you go on Amazon, they're in stock, except you can't have them for 6 weeks. They don't ship. So I made these, and on top of all of that, my husband, he's a big man, so his face is bigger, so I had to make some. My sister made me some and sent them to me, but I don't have them yet. So you have to have a few. And the interesting thing is you have to make up your mind. I think when people live together in close quarters, one of the things I'm very worried about is domestic violence calls are up by 35%.
Absolutely.
Huge. And you have to where whoever you're living with, you have to find a way to get space for yourself. If that just means putting on your headphones so you can't hear and see anybody else, whatever that means, but you have to have some way. Because when people are close quarters, and for example, he needs swimming and golf and tennis, all those things to keep him physically active. Well, he can't have any of that right now. So we walk. but you have to say to yourself, yes, this person is probably going to irritate me, okay? But we periodically, okay? But the confines are here. So one of the things we've done is just say, we know that's going to happen, okay? And we just seek some space periodically, okay? And then we come back together. One other tool for your audience. There's a technique called metaphor story. And metaphor story is when you don't use proper names, but you can use metaphor story. It comes out of narrative therapy to solve problems or to find out what's bothering somebody or whatever. So one of the things I do with T every now and again, if there's something that I know is bothering him about me or I'm bothered about that, I'll go, hey, I got a story to tell you. He goes, oh no. And I'll go, once upon a time there was a man and there was a woman and they lived together and they had to live with COVID-19. And you go, and they got on each other's nerves. And you know what the woman did? He goes, oh no, what? She really irritated her husband. He goes, oh no. What did she do? Well, by the time you work through one of those, you're both laughing.
Yeah.
The irritation is gone.
That's really good. That's really a fun thing. I hope some people, hope some of the families I work with will take to heart the fact that there's going to be stress and find ways to talk through it in ways that break that tension. And don't end up in difficult situations, which we know a lot of families are struggling with.
The thing is you want to, because the amygdala in your brain is afraid. You're afraid right now. The amygdala, when people get anxious or they get afraid, it hijacks their prefrontal cortex, their thinking. So your emotional response takes over, which is your brain stem, and it rules. When the amygdala takes over, it is in charge. And so literally you can't think, and the blood flow leaves your prefrontal cortex. So that's when people lash out, say, things they regret and do things they regret. And the bottom line is, that's going to happen.
Yeah.
Because there's already a huge level of anxiety. Okay. And then if people have food shortages on top of that, and then you have tiny space, I mean, it's, yeah.
So that leads us to the last letter, which is emotional. We've kind of already actually dived into that a little bit. Any other thoughts about the emotional stress and what you're doing with your own emotional stress, as well as things that, beyond what we've already talked about, things that people can do to help themselves emotionally in these times?
Well, I think if you're going to get through this, you have to have a future story. You have to say, this will get better, okay? It won't last forever. You have to be cognizant that there will be losses. So what are the losses? Okay. And losses always come before gains. So the loss always comes first. And so you have to say, I don't understand this. I don't control it. What can I learn from it? And what will I take with me on the other side? When I get over to the other side, what do I want to remember? Like, I'm not as productive as I'd like to be right now because it's so distracting, every day is a different day. And so I said to myself, Ruby, this is a gift to you. You finally have something you've wanted all your life, to be home every day. okay, and not traveling. So why now are you so anxious about it when it's actually a gift to you, okay? So think about it as a gift. You wanted it all your life. Now you have it, and now you're anxious. So what's coming on the other side? And I firmly believe that every situation is a learning situation, but there will be losses. And I think people try to deny, negate the losses.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, as if you can't have a positive outcome unless there is no loss.
Exactly.
When in fact there is loss coming.
It is.
Like, and I'm sitting right here, and I'm really in a fortunate situation that I don't have any relatives or extended family that have been impacted yet. But I don't necessarily expect that to be the end of this story. And I can't look at it as if somebody gets sick, then there is nothing good that can come out of this. That's sort of that there's only one possible positive outcome, is that nobody I know gets sick and dies. And that's just not going to work in this situation. There's just too many losses. Besides physical death, there's all the emotional, the school, the jobs, the money. There's so many things going on. So wow, that is phenomenal advice. Thank you so much for that.
Well, and one thing about that, my brother, 3 years ago, he went through pancreatic cancer. And he survived it. He has a deep faith. I believe in healing, etc. And the doctor told him last time he went there, it's a miracle. It's a miracle, okay? But in the middle of it, he said, Ruby, I could very well die. And I said, you know what? We're all terminal.
Yeah.
Okay, period. We are all going to die. Okay, you just got a little advance warning, but the bottom line is we are all terminal. Yep. And so I think that the thing is that there's losses and gains, and you don't know what the gains are for a long time.
Yeah. All right. Well, our last question is just kind of a personal one about you. What are you learning about you right now in this context that it's going to be better? What are you learning about yourself or about life right now that you're going to take with you into your future story?
Well, I didn't realize how much I need physical activity. I didn't know that. Okay. Like, I'm not athletic. Okay. It was so bad in high school. The only reason I passed PE is because I dressed out. And my friends would say to me, this is the truth. My friends would say to me, Ruby, you can be on our team if you promise not to play. And they meant it. And the only reason they had me on the team is because they knew they might need academic help. And so they needed a friend over there. Okay. But they sure didn't want me on the team for athletic reasons. Okay. So I even had a PE teacher say to me, well, you sure look graceful, but you are one of the most uncoordinated human beings I've seen. Okay? So I had no idea how much I need physical activity.
Good. So you expect that you'll maintain that. Like you'll keep dancing after this is over.
Yes. But what I didn't know is how much I needed it.
Yeah, that's really good. Really good. Well, this has been amazing. Like there is so much in here that people are going to have to watch this like 5 times to pull out all the good stuff that you shared. And it's just so grateful that you're willing to do this for us and take some time out of your day. We're all sitting at home, but we still sort of have our own schedule. So I appreciate you taking the time to do this.
And you know what? I appreciate you doing this, Jim. And if people don't know what a gift you are to your community and you're nationally consulting, somebody needs to say that. You're a gift.
Well, thank you, Ruby. I love you, and I thank you so much for taking this time, and we'll be talking to you again soon, I'm sure.
And bless America.
I am so grateful to Ruby for taking the time to sit down with me and share some of her thoughts and wisdom and also her own personal experience. If you go to Ruby K. Payne on Facebook, you can find that video of her dancing with her husband. It's quite delightful, and you might enjoy looking into that because it's not a bad way to address the physical resource. Get out and learn to dance. Not a bad idea. plenty of YouTube videos that can teach you how to do that. So, thanks for being with us today. I hope you have a great Tuesday, and we will talk to you again tomorrow on Bellevue Coping Tips with Mr. Ott. Have a great day.